This is Ty from the Open Road and Reel. Like I mentioned in my brake job video, car maintenance is super important when you're on the open road. So today, I'm going to help my son do an oil change on his, what is it, a 2021 Subaru Outback. Crosstrek. Whatever. It's a car. We're going to do an oil change. And so we have here today, we picked up from AutoZone. Several of the items were necessary. So we got air filter. This is the cabin filter. We may not get to these two today, but we might. This is the oil filter. Vida Larga, if you are of the Spanish persuasion. And then we've got 5 gallons of our Mobil 1 0W20 oil to put in after we've drained the oil. So, we also had to purchase a new jack. So you can see the jack down there. Big 3-ton jack. We were using a tiny jack before, and he was like, we better get a bigger jack so this thing has room for us to get underneath it. So, that's what we're going to do. We're going to tackle that now, and wish us luck.
You can see here we have the old filter. Definitely needs to be taken out of there, so we'll take that out in due time. This is the oil cap. Once we raise up the vehicle, we'll take this thing off so that there's not a suction when we actually open up the plug underneath. But once we're underneath the car, we'll take the plug out, let the oil drain. Then we'll take the filter off, replace that, put a little bit of new oil in this filter here. Put that new filter in there, push the plug, or put the plug back in at the bottom, and then fill it up with the new oil. Put it all back together, run it, and make sure it looks okay.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
First thing is we jack it up. Probably good, I would think. All right, so we got the car jacked. We found that that's the best spot to do it, is right there on between the axle. There's metal. This is all plastic here to about where the jack is right now. So we jacked her up. Now we're going to take the floor jacks and we're going to put them along the sides and then release the jack so we can get under there and do the oil drain, because that'll be in the way while we're trying to drain the oil. All right, we've got our 3-ton Daytona jacks jacked all the way up the top. And we're going to put it right between those two little notches there, where you would normally put a regular jack. And now we're going to release the jack, the big jack, slowly. Now that we got it jacked up,
Yep.
What's next?
So we're going to release this here. This is just your oil filter. This comes off, and then we'll put it someplace so it's not going to fall back inside.
Oil cap. Oil.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the oil cap here.
Yep. And then
oil
the
filter goes there.
Yep. So now we'll go underneath. We'll find the little bolt that's going to release the oil into our drip pan here.
Yep.
And then we'll get that drained out of there.
Cool. All right.
All right, so we've got our 17mm socket here. So some cars you have to take this plastic piece off. Subaru was nice and they actually cut a hole for us at the factory. So the bolt to release the oil is going to be right here. We've got our drip pan right underneath it, and I'm not underneath it, so I don't take a big oil shower. But I'm going to release this. Shouldn't be any suction since we've already taken off the oil filter, or the oil cap at the top. So just going to ratchet this off now. Flip it around. All right, so we popped this thing open here. So now it's going to be a matter of taking this thing off. Probably going to get your hands dirty, but it's kind of the whole point. And that can happen go. And now we let it drain. So if your socket wrench isn't, long enough, or you can't get the proper leverage, you can take a metal or PVC pipe, put this over it, and what that does is that gives you extra length and leverage to, maybe pop a bolt that's being a little tricky for you. If you're using something like PVC, just make sure that you actually have a hand on where this is actually going to be inside the pipe, so you don't just bend this pipe, because this will break if it's under proper tension. Metal pipes are the best for that just because of the rigidity and strength, but this worked just fine.
Alright.
Alright, so we're going to tighten this down, see if we can get this removed here. And it looks like we did. So, I wonder. A little toasty, but not too bad. Maybe you can hear that, but as soon as I released this, some more oil started draining out of the bottom. It's always a good idea to do that while the bottom bolt is still out of there. That way it continues to drain out. Sounds pretty substantial.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now we've got this out of there. We can dispose of this in the proper way, which I do not know, but we'll figure that out later.
That's right.
But yeah, we'll get this cleaned up and get the new one on there. So we're just going to take a rag and kind of clean up the inside of this, just to make sure there's free of particles, old oil, things like that. We'll have to here. So particle there. And there we go. Pretty good. So now we're just going to put a little bit of oil on our new filter here. So just use a paper towel or a rag if you have one. Put that over the top of this. You can kind of feel it hit the top of it there. And then just kind of around the top. Kind of get it on the seal itself as well. And if you need more, kind of get a little more on there. Don't need to coat the whole thing, certainly don't need to fill it, but just makes hand tightening it a little bit better. Just like that. So we're going to replace this here, and this can just be hand tightened. There's no reason to really tighten it down. Just want to make sure you get a good seal. And this is kind of beveled on top, so you can actually hand tighten it. Alright, so now we're ready to put the lug nut back on the bottom of the car to plug up the oil. So it does need to be torqued. It's recommended that it's 31 foot-pounds. So we don't have an actual torque wrench that's going to do that for us, but we do have this little Quinn dealie that we both enjoy, my dad and I. So it's a little poundage meter. So you turn it on like that. You put the wrench on one side, and we have a 17 millimeter socket on this side. So we'll put that on the bottom. And then this will show us how many foot-pounds we want to torque to. So it'll take just a second here. And there we have 31. So this is filled with oil, so what we're going to do is we're going to put it on this towel and kind of just pull the whole thing out of there so we're not trying to wrestle this oil out. Already kind of had a little bit of a spill, as you saw earlier. So just kind of go side by side, nice and slow. And then just pull it out. Alright, so now we're going to kind of clean this up a little bit because we did have some oil dribble out. Kind of clean the oil too for the plug. We did also clean the plug itself because it'll catch metal shavings from the engine itself. So go ahead and just hand tighten this in there, and then before we even really crank it down, so that's about right there, we'll get our torque wrench and make sure it's torqued to the proper setting, proper poundage. So we're going to make sure that this poundage is set to 31. We're going to put it on here. And we're going to tighten it.
You're going the wrong way.
Yeah, sure am. Let that be a lesson to everybody out there. Alright, so now it's starting to get some poundage. And this thing will beep and let you know when you're at the poundage, so just go slow and make sure you listen. Or maybe it won't. Oh, there we go. Alright, so with that little beep, we're at proper poundage on this, and now we can fill up with oil. You're going to use a funnel right here, so that's going to be where you're going to put in your oil. Just kind of set that in there. Make sure to hold it in case it's not a good fit. That one seems to be pretty good. So we've got OW20 Advanced Full Synthetic, so that's what this vehicle likes. It's going to help the fuel economy as well. Thanks, Mobile, that's very nice. So we'll just take the cap off here, set it off to the side. And it's a good idea to go real slow. It's a pain to get all this cleaned up, so get it started. And if it starts to fill up in the filter or in the funnel itself, just give it a second, make sure that it doesn't bubble back on you. That does take the full 5 quarts, so don't stop halfway. You can kind of look down in there and see. Let's remove this kind of real quick. That it is actually all taken in there. And then we can go underneath and see if there's any leaks or anything, but with that proper torque on the drain plug, should be all set. Just carefully put this in here. And then we'll put the cap back on. Make sure to hand tighten that down so there's no leaks on that side either. So now the best thing to do is to actually check the oil. So engine oil is going to be right here. This is the dipstick. So when you take it out, don't worry about whatever it's telling you right now. You're going to want to clean it off first. So just take a paper towel, clean it all the way off. Make sure that there's no excess oil in there. And what you're going to look for is there's these 2 dots pressed into the dipstick. You're going to want to see that the oil is towards the high end of this, since we just did a full oil change. If you're ever checking your oil and it gets down below this, you're going to want to add some more oil and probably look at doing an oil change as well. So, we're going to put this dipstick back in here, all the way in, kind of go like that a little bit, just to make sure it gets nice coverage on the oil. And then oil may drip, so just kind of have a paper towel ready for you. And we'll see. Looks like we've got some full oil there. So you can see the oil is all the way up way past that second dot. So it's looking pretty good. And make sure to replace this. Alright, so now with the old oil you can put it back in the used oil container and take it back to your local auto shop. And then we can go ahead and just wipe this out with some paper towels or some shop rags, and then we're all set.
Well, that about wraps up that project. Nick did a great job changing the oil in his Subaru and walking us through the process. We also changed out his air filter and his cabin filter. But please remember, we're not professionals, so do your own research and don't start a project unless you think you have the skills to get it done correctly and the right tools. Like we had to switch out the jack that we had from an earlier project to that 3-ton jack. Made the project go so much easier. So, thanks for joining us today, And remember, adventure starts at home. Thanks for joining me on the open road and reel.